Ah, GM, KEP Posse. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday shows watch party with Kianga Ellis Projects. I am your hostess with the mostest. I am Kianga Ellis, and I deliberately set up this stream 15 minutes early so I could get situated. We could all get situated because really we are going to tune in and watch State of the Union. Let me hang on. So just chill out, hang out, warm up. I need to make another coffee. I want to adjust some things so we can so you who are not here with me in the 3RN HQ office studio, all things Rural Rapid Response Network, all things Mud Lake Legal, all things Kianga Ellis Projects happening here. So yes, let me do this all quickly. Share the stream. Like I said, get comfy. Maybe if you also normally watch these shows, you would maybe want to, you'll watch it as well. But for those of you who want to watch it through the screen, I'm going to try to bring the TV closer, set it up so it's a little bit easier for you to see the screen within a screen. It's so very meta. And also, if you just have absolutely nothing to do until 9 a.m., go to the article, the essay, brand new, hot off the press, the long, toiled, long read that I've been threatening to publish for, it turns out, months. It's pinned. It's on Substack. So Kianga Ellis Projects is on Substack. At Kianga Ellis, I think, is the handle on Substack. So check us out there. On X and on Blue Sky, we have posted the article last night, and I have retweeted it on my personal handle, I believe. But anyway, go to Kianga Ellis on Substack, look for the essay. First, I got the Banny, then I got the Power. And it's also pinned on, if you're watching this stream on X, it's also pinned on the @Kianga Ellis profile. First, I got the Banny, then I got the Power. Everything is there. Everything is there. So hang on, let me organize my coffee and set things up. I'm going to put this on mute, but I'll leave the video on. And yeah, I will be back in a moment. Hold on. Okay, coffee's on. How is the lighting? Oh, let me plug in. Let me plug in. How's the lighting? How's the sound? Okay. I see a few eyeballs on the icon. All right, we've got 9 minutes. Let me. I don't know. I want somebody to help me out here. Help me out, you guys. Are you seeing this? I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check on X. Watch party. You know, this is something I always wanted to do. Since I was in law school, I had this idea that it'd be so fun to have a Sunday brunch and watch the Sunday shows. And over the past almost 30 years, it's never really worked out. I've gone in and out of being an avid watcher of the Sunday political shows. I used to really just never miss it, especially Meet the Press, you know, Tim Russert days. I would just never, ever, ever miss it. And it's only in the last couple of months that I've started working it back into my rotation because it's just not really the way you want to start Sunday. It's not really the way I love to start Sunday. But yeah, it's now part of the routine most Sundays. So I figured now with all of this technology we have, I could just start having my Sunday show watch parties. And maybe some of you at some point will join me here. So actually, let me try to fix this. Coffee's on. Let me try to improve this layout. I'm trying to bring the TV closer. I mean, it's not a huge TV. How's that? I think that's good. I think that's good. Can you hear it?
This is not killing kids. This is saving kids. This is for my brothers. I've lost so many friends to this game, to this drink, to this drink.
Oh, coffee.
I can't stand by it any longer. I've never stood by it. And I can't do anything else. That's why I'm here. President Trump, this is for him. I brought this to give to him. This has to change. Have you met with the president, or do you hope to get this? We've been trying. There's a lot of talk, and we're here for action. A lot of my friends don't have that ability to be around anymore, and experience this life, and to wake up. It's because they made the wrong decision. Yeah.
MTG is going to be next. So this is a little bit before, State of the Union. We're really focused on State of the Union, which comes on in 5 minutes. So hang tight.
Kids can continue to play this game the way it should be played, the way we grew up watching it with 85 Bears. 85 Bears. Now, the new regulation will go into effect a year from now. So that's why Charlie, multi-billion-dollar pet industry.
Do I need more light? Do I need to plug this in? I don't know. That light looks all right. All right, we'll see. Okay, my coffee's getting coffee. I need my second coffee.
/watch for more. Up next, interview with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Dana's guests include CFS Administrator Dr. Emmett Oz, Georgia Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and former U.S. Ambassador Ron Emanuel. Thanks again for sharing your Sunday morning with us. We'll see you next time. I'm Ben Weeder in Rome. See it.
In the AI era, anything seems possible. From transforming industries to changing business. We can have AI. We can make it change.
I like things personalized, like my coffee. So with my doctor, we've got a sugar self-injection for my generalized myasthenia gravis. We personalized my treatment goal. Vidgar Nature located proved daily and reduced muscle weakness.
It's my treatment, my way.
Vidgar Nature lives where we can raise these.
It's travel ready. I can go where I go.
Self-injection could.
All right, everybody. I wish you were here. I would make you a coffee, and I don't have any food, but that doesn't affect you. That only affects me. And of course, for the Sunday political shows, we are sipping our second coffee of the morning. No fear, never give up. John Deaton for Senate out of Massachusetts. I mean, I don't know. Some of you know, but most of you don't know. Massachusetts is about to have a senator who grew up in the hood of Detroit. I mean, that's about to be the theme for 2026, just like worlds colliding, things you just never thought were ever possible to happen. And I am ready for it. Okay. All right. 2 minutes. Let me plug the article, the essay that dropped last night on Kianga Ellis Projects Substack, pinned at the top of our X. I don't need to be competing with the commercial, right? Duh. Pinned at the top of the X stream, posted on Blue Sky and X and Farcaster to like the none of you who know what that is. All right, what do I want to do in the last? What was I going to do? Oh, well, okay. All right, we're going to hang out. We're gonna watch State of the Union. Then we're going to watch Meet the Press. And I will give you some side chatter. I will give you some side chatter. I like to laugh instead of cry. So often the more stressed I am or the more upset I am about something, the more you're going to see me smile and laugh. So I expect a ton of laughter for the next 2 hours. And in between commercials, I'll give you, my hot takes. And all of this is connected, of course, to the project, the mission, the vision, Rural Rapid Response Network, Kianga Ellis Projects, and the brand new Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, exclusively on Juicebox. And everything is explained in the essay, and I'll get into a little bit of that. So, all right, we've got 1 minute. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I want to join the stream from my personal X, so my personal followers on X can see that I'm here with you. Okay? Here we go. Hang on. I'll be back.
Spectrum is connectivity everywhere. Built by an internet company, because internet is what you use your phone for. And Spectrum One seamlessly combines 5G.
So many screens going on in here. You have no idea. Some of you know. If you're in the industry that shall not be named, you know how many screens I probably have in here. You know it's a ton. All right, how do I do this so it's like, okay. So, the whole idea of this.
Would you like to tell me why you don't think I can? I have 3 years to.
Isn't everyone so excited to see this, glorification of the Prime Minister of New Zealand that CNN is planning to air tonight? Here we go.
Pressure, a MAGA breakup, as President Trump turns on a close ally.
Something happened.
No.
We're no longer much of a bed.
What's really going on here? Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene joins me exclusively next. Plus, healthcare hurdles. Republicans may have won the battle,
The Democrat shutdown is finally over.
but with healthcare premiums set to skyrocket, Obamacare solutions, can they win the war over healthcare? I'll ask CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz ahead. And playing game. Days after big election wins, Democrats are back to pointing fingers.
You are right to be angry.
Can they harness that anger ahead of the midterms? Potential 2028 hopeful Rahm Emanuel joins me, and our political panel breaks it all down.
You don't want to see it. You don't want to see the back of my head.
Where the state of our union is burning bridges. It's the political breakup heard around the world. President Trump severing ties with at least one of his closest allies, declaring withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, even calling for primary challenges against his one-time loyalists and attacking her as, quote, wacky, a ranting lunatic, a rhino, and a traitor. This day before the House of Representatives is set to vote on releasing the Epstein files. It's a stunning breach between two MAGA leaders. One of whom is here reaching out exclusively for her first interview since the president cut ties. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, thank you so much for being here. As you just heard, and you saw, the president says he's withdrawing support for you, encouraging primary challengers. You were one of his biggest supporters. What do you think happened here?
Well, Dana, thank you for having me on, and that is true. I stood with President Trump when virtually no one else did. Campaigned all over the country, spent millions of my own dollars helping him get elected, and I think that's incredibly important. And I do support him and his administration, and I support them in delivering the campaign promises we made to the American people. His remarks, of course, have been hurtful. However, I have something in my heart that I think is incredibly important for our country, and that is to end the toxic fighting in politics. And this has been going on for years, and it has divided our country, split up friends and families, neighbors, and it's not solving our problems. The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor, and that is so extremely wrong. And those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
What do you think happened? What do you think is the reason for this?
Unfortunately, it has all come down to the Epstein files, and that is shocking. And, you know, I stand with these women. I stand with rape victims. I stand with children who are in terrible sex abuse situations. And I stand with survivors of trafficking and those that are trapped in sex trafficking. And I will not apologize for that. I believe the country deserves transparency in these files. And I don't believe that rich, powerful people should be protected if they have done anything wrong. And so I'm standing with the women, and I will continue to do my small part to get the files released.
You said on X yesterday, quote, "It's astonishing really how hard he's fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out, and that it really makes you wonder what is in those files." Are you suggesting there's something in the Epstein files that President Trump does not want Americans to see?
Well, I think that's the part that has so many people confused, is that the women themselves that I've talked to have over and over again said that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. Quite a few of them even told me they voted for him. And those are the women I would like to see in the Oval Office with support. I would like to see all of the women there with support. I have no idea what's in the files. I can't even guess, but that is the questions everyone is asking, is why fight this so hard?
Well, before this blow up, you sort of alluded to this just now. You said you were confident the president wouldn't be implicated. Are you still confident of that?
I'm listening to the women. Those are the ones that are saying that he did nothing wrong. Virginia Giuffre even said under oath that Donald Trump did nothing wrong, and she wrote it in her book. So I'm continuing to listening to the women, and I think their voices should be the loudest.
The president said the reason that you have been critical of him is not necessarily Epstein, but because he pushed you not to run for the Senate or for governor in Georgia. How and when did he do that?
Well, that is absolutely not true. Actually, I never had a conversation at all.
AOC said the same thing about her a couple days ago.
And those were decisions I came to on my own that don't have anything to do with the Senate. I think the past 2 months of the government shutdown should have shown America exactly why I would never want to be there. I think it's a very broken institution that serves the uniparty and doesn't serve the American people and how they vote. And I decided that I didn't want to run for governor this cycle either. I very much want to do the job that I'm in. Everyone else says I'm running for something, but all I want to do is serve Georgia's 14th district. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity.
So he said it pretty explicitly. Are you saying he's lying? Or did he at least get that message to somebody on your political team instead?
I'm not sure, but that is untrue what he said. I don't know if he's being fed wrong information. I honestly have no idea in that area, but it is absolutely factually not true, nor have I called him, and White House logs would prove that. His own cell phone records would prove it. I have not been calling the president, but I did post messages that I had sent to him, and that was to protect, get involved. This is important. The American people want the Epstein files released. And, I've stood with the president. I have disagreed with him at times, Dana, and I'm allowed to do that. I think that's the most important thing we can do as Americans. And I'm urging my party. I've been putting massive pressure on my party and our speaker to pass the agenda that the American people vote for. That's the agenda that I fought for. Those are the campaign promises I made. And I can disagree with the president at times, particularly this past Monday on the Marines' 250th anniversary, when he honored the new Syrian president, who is an Al-Qaeda terrorist and was wanted by our government for years with a $10 million bounty up until March of this year. I very much am against that. I think that was very hurtful to the great men and women who served over in the Middle East and were sent there, and many of them that were killed and injured and live with PTSD to this day from fighting Al-Qaeda. So there's things I disagree with, and I'm allowed to do so.
Well, you mentioned the Syrian leader at the White House. You've also been critical of President Trump over foreign entanglements, H-1B visas. Now he's moving military assets towards Venezuela. I do want to play something that he said this week.
Don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our
Steve
country
Bannon.
thrive.
Everybody knows that.
Do you agree? Do you think he represents the MAGA movement as he once did?
Well, what the American people voted for with MAGA was to put the American people first and stop sending foreign aid and stop being involved in foreign wars. They very much deserve to be put first. Cost of living is far too high. Health insurance is completely out of control. And those are two issues I've been very vocal on for months and months now, long before Republicans were shocked when those big losses came on this past Tuesday's election. So I think that the American people deserve to be put first. That's what Make America Great Again meant to me. And I think that President Trump can do that if he refocuses his effort. And I think that's what I want to see. I think that's what the country wants to see. Even if he's attacking me, I do want him to be successful for the American people.
So sounds like you're saying that he is not representing the MAGA movement that he started right now.
He didn't start it. That's why.
Promoting H-1B visas to replace American jobs, bringing in 600,000 Chinese students to replace American students' opportunities in American colleges and universities. Those are not America First positions and continuing to really travel all over the world doesn't help Americans back at home. I really, and I said this to him, and I will say it out loud, I would love to see Air Force One be parked and stay home, and there be nothing but a constant focus in the White House on a domestic agenda that helps the American people once and for all.
Congresswoman, you posted on X that President Trump is, with his comments, fueling a quote hotbed of threats against you. Obviously, any threats to your safety are completely unacceptable. But we have seen these kinds of attacks or criticism from the president at other people. It's not new. And with respect, I haven't heard you speak out about it until it was directed at you.
Good point.
Dana, I think that's fair criticism. And I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. It's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I'm committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another, and we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences. And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
So just to put a button on this, you regret the things that you have said and posted in the past, the Facebook post that was taken down of you in 2020 holding a gun alongside the squad, encouraging people to go on the offense against the socialists, liking a tweet of somebody calling for the execution of Nancy Pelosi and former President Obama, just examples.
Ouch, Dana.
Well, Dana, as you know, and many people know, I addressed that back in 2021. And of course, I never want to cause any harm or anything bad for anyone. So that was addressed back then, and I very much stand by my words I said then, and I stand by my words today. I think America needs to come together and end all the toxic, dangerous rhetoric and divide. And I'm leading the way with my own example, and I hope that President Trump can do the same.
Okay, so on that, I do want to ask you about something you posted just yesterday on X. You questioned who and what country is putting so much pressure on Trump to keep the Epstein files hidden. And you included a picture about donations from pro-Israel lobbying group APEC. What are you trying to say there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's a question that many Americans are asking, especially when we saw information recently come out in these emails that the Oversight Committee that I serve on has released. And we saw Jeffrey Epstein with ties to Ehud Barak. We saw him making business deals with them, also business deals that involved the Israeli government, and seems to have led into their intel agencies. And I think the right question is asked is, was Jeffrey Epstein working for Israel? And I'm proud to say I don't take money from APEC. I don't take money from any special group of people. I'm just representing my district and the American people. And so that's what I was referring to.
I just want to be clear. Are you saying Israel is pushing the president of the United States to cover up the Epstein files? And what evidence do you have that is?
I simply just asked out loud, is there a foreign government? It could be any foreign government, but is the foreign government pushing to keep this covered up? Because people just don't understand the big fight against.
Well, you had APEC up there. It was pretty clear which government you were talking about.
That I'm questioning that government in particular and questioning any other foreign government.
Okay, when you're talking about lowering the rhetoric, which is important for everybody to hear from you and all of our elected officials, but there is some concern, a lot of concern among Republicans about the rise of anti-Semitic hard right figures in your movement, especially after Tucker Carlson hosted white nationalist Nick Fuentes on his podcast, didn't question Fuentes about his vile language or views. You did speak at a conference hosted by Fuentes back in 2022. You were criticized and you said then that you didn't know about his views. Well, Fuentes talked to Carlson about that in the interview. Listen to what he said.
Well, again, with Marjorie, I was a friend of hers, and she spoke at my conference, and then the day after, she pretended like she didn't know me. She pretended like she didn't know me and lied and said, I had no idea the conference I was speaking at. She knew exactly what it was.
What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, I defend every single person's free speech rights. I think that's incredibly important. So I don't apologize for that. And I don't believe in canceling people. And I think it's important for people like Tucker Carlson and yourself to interview everyone. I don't believe in trying to cancel someone by refusing to interview them and question them. And I did speak at his conference back in 2022. However, I don't know Nick Fuentes. He's someone I've never exchanged text messages with or phone calls, but I did speak at his conference. That was the first time I had met him that day, and that was it. So, but I did watch the interview. I watched the full interview with Tucker, and I admire him for interviewing many people as well as exposing a lot of powerful information.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying about free speech. I mean, count me as guilty as a proponent of free speech. There's free speech, and then there is hate speech. And this is a man invited in a really.
This is a dangerous distinction they're doing.
He had a problem.
Free speech versus hate speech. We got to keep our eye on this.
In the past, he has denied the Holocaust, called Adolf Hitler effing cool, talked about the fact that he thought Jim Crow was just fine, and on and on. So again, there's free speech, and then there's just hateful language and sentiments.
I mean, that's the point of free speech, is that you can be hateful and you don't get arrested. Because that's all subjective, right? This is so important, everybody. We got to hold the line on free speech. That's the ultimate thing we have to protect.
You can ask him questions about that. I myself am not anti-Semitic. I have never criticized the Jewish people or said anything about them in particular. I am critical of the government of Israel, and I can criticize any government I want to in the entire world, as well as our own. And a lot of the times I'm criticizing our own government for failing the American people. And I think that needs to be the focus. And that's the most important thing people care about, is being able to afford groceries, housing, health insurance, and having a good quality of life.
Yeah, and I hear you saying you're not anti-Semitic, and you said it before, and some of the posts that you have put up, which you have apologized for, certainly have tropes in them that have been used historically against Jews. But I do want to end this conversation with a question to you, and that is, do you see a situation where you and President Trump can make up? And if not, do you think you have a future in the GOP?
Well, I certainly hope that we can make up. And there's, again, I can only speak for myself. I'm a Christian, and one of the most important parts of our faith is forgiveness. And that's something I'm committed to. That's why I can easily come on your show that is watched all over the world, and I can say things I'm sorry for, and I can try to set an example of how I think we should move forward as Americans. And so, of course, on my end, I believe in that, and I certainly hope to see that happen.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, I appreciate you coming on this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana.
And my next guest says he fully believes President Trump has a plan to replace Obamacare. So what is it? Dr. Oz will be here.
Dr. Oz.
Will Democratic infighting get in the way of winning next year? I'm going to talk to a potential 2028 Democratic candidate ahead.
Wow. Okay. So during the commercial break, let's discuss. Oh, well, what do you all think? How did she come across? Sincere, or is it politics? Is it You know, obviously MTG's been distinguishing herself from the pack for several, I mean, you could even say months. But how did she come across to you? You're very quiet. KEP Posse, you're so quiet this morning. Okay, so you want to hear, maybe you're watching because you want to hear what I think. I found her to be credible. I found her to be sincere. But, you know, I think what's more important than what's in her heart is what she said about her example. And the words that she says, and all of us say, and our politicians especially, and the actions, you know, that's ultimately, for me, that's ultimately where I draw the line, or how I assess someone, is the impact, the results. And I believe that part of the devolution we've had in our politics is the focus on feelings and what people like feel, who they are, if they're virtuous. And we have this parade of meaningless virtue signaling and keyboard warrioring, while the rest of everything around us goes to heck in a handbasket, right? So what good is it how somebody is in their heart if what it is that, or what they say is it, because nobody's going to know. You will never know what's in someone's heart. You will never be able to see inside of someone's soul. So why do we even like spend so much time focusing on that? And we therefore get, as a result, all of this performance, and we get no action and we get no results. Okay. So for me, the question, and this is where I have always butted heads, even before I really figured out exactly where I stood politically. Always either independent, and later I registered as a Democrat. And I'm sorry, no, that was a mistake. I've never been a registered Democrat. I registered as a Republican years and years ago, after being an independent since 18. And this has been one thing in my experience growing up in New England, going to certain types of schools, having a certain kind of career, where I was just drowned, soaked in a certain perspective about what's the correct way to think. Liberal, democratic was just, and it's just assumed. And I saw very early on a kind of hypocrisy that just I could never get past. And it was this disconnect between, ideas and words versus impact and results. And that many of the people I would interact with and were in my life just never wanted to discuss that disconnect, like literally ever. And so, okay, yeah. And so, I think that more focus on impacts and results and the tangible things we can measure is where we need to like shift our thinking. And so as far as MTG right now, I mean, I watched it live like you. I will process. And this is big. This is big. What the POTUS dropped on MTG on Friday, and I think yesterday, was just absolutely such a absolutely wild moment, and we can unpack that. But as far as where she's coming from, let's just deal with her actions from this point on, and let's look at people's behavior and their actions, and how it impacts us and the broader situation that we're in, and stop worrying so much about like what's in their heart. Because if your heart is supposedly great, but then you still slap me across the face, like, does it matter that you meant well? You still like clocked me, but you meant well. So this is what we have to really start to be more honest about. Okay, Dr. Oz is on.
Let me go back in here.
designed to expire now is reflective of the fact that the current system is not the system that anyone really thought would work long term. It creates incentives for fraud. And I'll just give you one example because I keep reading about this in different contexts, but you can understand it in a very straightforward way. Health insurance is different from other kinds of insurance. You don't want to use your fire insurance because you don't want your house burning down. Health insurance you tend to use every year. In fact, on average, 80% of people use their health insurance during the day. If you're watching right now, think about whether you filled a prescription, went to a doctor's office, you use your insurance. So let's say 20% of the time you don't use your insurance. That was also the number for the Obamacare exchanges. That number has now doubled. Doubled. We had last year 24 million people on the exchanges. 11 million people never followed.
I hear you talking about how complicated it is and there is potential for fraud. But the reality is time's ticking. And there are people who are really going to suffer because the system is the way it is, unless these are at least extended temporarily while you try to figure out the reform. Will that happen? We encourage the president to do that.
There are ways for us to continue to cover Americans without allowing the widespread fraud. And I don't want to underplay this. 4.4 million people right now, we believe, are getting full insurance coverage with the Obamacare. Many of them don't know they have that coverage. They're duly enrolled both in Medicaid and the
Can you fix that? It's the middle of November. Can you fix that in the next 5 weeks?
We can definitely put an incentive to remove that as a possibility. I'll give you a good example. Get people to pay $5. $5. Is that too much to pay a month? Paying $5 a month means at least you have to opt into the program. You can't get falsely put on a program by some broker without you knowing.
So are there conversations about doing things like you just said with the Republicans in Congress, maybe even with Democrats, in order to get these subsidies at least extended in the short term?
There are discussions around extending subsidies. If we deal with the fraud, waste, and abuse that right now is paralyzed in the system, there are ways of using our money wisely by putting it in the pockets of Americans. There are things we actually put into the One Big Beautiful Bill, like these CSRs, which are these cost-saving reduction tools that make insurance more efficient. That would have saved us a lot of money that Democrats took out. So there are already ideas we put out there. We would have saved 10% on premiums if we'd allowed these CSRs to be enacted in the One Big Beautiful Bill. By not putting them in there, we're forcing people to pay more. The big question is this: how do we insure people but make it sustainable? I'm passionate about this. I'm a heart surgeon. I want people having coverage when they come to see me for life-saving heart surgery, or else I'm fearful they won't get that care. But how do we do it in a way that makes the program sustainable for decades to come? So we don't fight this battle every single year.
Yeah. Just to be clear, again, this isn't a hypothetical in the short term. This is why I'm so focused on it, because the deadline is where it is. I want to play something from Donna and Chris Betters. They have monthly healthcare payments that are expected to skyrocket from $401 a month to $2,000 a month. Listen to what they said.
It's just impossible. There's no way we're going to have to give up our healthcare.
The increase in the health premiums would be half of my income. It's literally rolling the dice on whether we live or die at this point.
So again, what can the president and Congress do right now to help people like the Betters?
This is a concern I've had from the moment I took my oath to run CMS. We have under Obamacare system that had a clip at 400% of the poverty level. That couple, I can almost guarantee you, is making over $100,000 a year. At some point, the Obamacare system just stopped paying for your insurance. They assumed you just pay for it yourself. The extended subsidies covered them temporarily. It was designed only during COVID, during a crisis, but we still don't have a marketplace in America to help couples like that. We want to try to crack that. There are ideas that would allow us to do it. For example, we could give them the money instead of giving it to the insurance.
Okay, so that's a conversation that has been happening about giving. The president had said there are billions of dollars that the government could send directly to people to purchase their own much better healthcare. How would that even work?
Well, we don't have market forces at play right now. Think about it. What is it called? It's called the Obamacare Exchange. It's a marketplace. What does marketplace mean? People actually have enrolled in the marketplace.
Trash is what it is. I don't care what you call it. It's absolutely trash.
Truly people from the private sector like that couple coming in, and then 50% government subsidized folks who couldn't afford their insurance. We have priced the systems now so heavily with government subsidies that they crowd out the private.
How would getting a check in the mail actually work.
If you had a check in the mail, you could buy the insurance you thought was best for you.
Right, but how would the government actually make that happen?
Oh, we could use health savings accounts. There are different tactics, flexible savings accounts. There are tools that exist right now that we could use. The question is that the best way for us to use taxpayer dollars? And this is critical. Is it sustainable? If we truly marketplace, can people use that money to wisely use their power?
They're trying to bribe you.
What I'm
They're
hearing
trying
you
to buy
say
your vote.
Are some fixes. And I know that you said it 3 weeks ago in an interview that you
It's
believe
welfare.
to replace Obamacare. Is that what you're getting at here?
Their
Because
base
this is
supposedly
something
hates.
that the president and Republicans
Nobody's
tried to
looking
do
in the
this
right
first term.
places as to
and
where all the
didn't
wealth,
succeed.
who is really
Are you
the
gonna restart
welfare
that?
queen in this country.
Not say it was a
Insurance companies, big agriculture,
could replace Obamacare.
Wall Street,
There's tactics that we're discussing right now. The shutdown just-
tech bros. No offense to my friends who are tech bros, but you know.
Insurance experts, all of those folks are back working full speed, and we are giving the president lots of options. We have reinsurance as an option, which is traditionally used to make insurance more affordable. We have tactics that would allow Americans to play a different role than they historically have played in this marketplace. But let me give you one big message because it's critical. At the same time we figure out how to pay for this program, we've got to figure out how to drop the cost of the program. That's why things like the most favored nation drug pricing are so critical. If we don't take proactive stances, as the president has done, to push down the prices of healthcare, no matter how much money you throw at these systems, it's never going to be enough.
The drugs
We're out of time, but if
are not
somebody's watching
healthcare.
now worried that they are not going to be able to afford insurance at the end of the year, are you
Just
making a
saying,
promise
just
that the
saying.
president and Congress will make sure that they can?
I promise you the president is laser focused on this. It's the main thing I've talked with him about. Congress as well is all over this. We have got to find solutions that don't just work at the end of this year, but work for years to come. And I do want to come back to this thing. We have ideas that will also drop the actual cost of care by putting downward pressure on what we're paying for medications. So that's probably a very good example. If you have insurance coverage, but your medications are also better priced, the insurance you buy is enough to buy those meds, you're in pretty good shape.
Dr. Ross, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. And Democrats are back to pointing some fingers this week. Did their shutdown strategy actually pay off? My next guest pretty clearly is looking at running for president in 2028. We'll talk about that.
Okay. What do we think about that? I wasn't really listening. That was a bit boring. Dr. Oz. Okay, well, obviously, healthcare. We don't have healthcare, do we? We don't. And I am not an expert on everything or really anything. I believe that we're all learning here. We all have so much room to grow and learn on different topics. I have some professional experience in certain areas, so I will have a lot to say about energy and finance. So things to do with the banks, things to do with cryptocurrency, decentralized finance. You are going to hear, I have always a ton. I could talk for days without taking a break on those policy questions. And I also have quite a bit of life experience in the nonprofit sector, philanthropy, which, I certainly think of within the broader basket of finance in a way, because it's supported by people's decisions around their assets, right? So nonprofits are funded by people because of tax benefits, and it's usually part of a financial plan. So that's really kind of where my nexus of thinking about nonprofit policy and philanthropy policy. So I don't have a ton to say about what we ought to do with healthcare. So I'm just killing time right now. I just experience it. I graduated from law school in the late 90s, and I've seen, 25 years of what it's like to have healthcare in America and how different things are post Obamacare. And so my perspectives on that, just sort of come from, just citizen experience, which is always valuable. So we all have a right to speak on every single thing. But I do commit myself to, try to be informed when I want to really go in on a topic. So I'm not going to say a lot about the healthcare. I'm going to remind everybody watching, thanks for joining the Kianga Ellis Projects Sunday Shows Watch Party. Who's someone's coming up next? And I'm sure this will be very interesting. Who's running for president? Who is Dana talking about the shutdown? But go to our Substack at Kianga Ellis and look for our new article. First, I got the Banny, then I got the Power, because it's not quite a manifesto for 3RN, the Rural Rapid Response Network, and Kianga Ellis Projects, and Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, and this whole world of KEP. But it is sort of all of the very, very important high-level concepts and technologies and theories. It outlines my thesis on what we're needing to do and why we'll be successful. All right, let's go back.
Another actor, the shutdown ended without their demands being met, just as the party was hoping to project unity heading into the midterms, especially after last week's election. Here with me now to discuss is former Chicago mayor and former White House chief of staff, likely 2028 candidate for president, Ambassador from America. Where your party is. The divide over the shutdown is real. And yet the question is whether or not you can harness what I was just talking to Dr. Oz about.
Well, a couple of things I would say. First, the government shutdown, I would look at it as that Chuck Schumer's not the problem. Donald Trump and the rubber stamp Republicans are the problem. Keep your eye on the prize. Focus on what's important.
Schumer's not the problem, but you didn't support the shutdown.
No, I wouldn't have done that, but that's separate. I wouldn't also voted for this proposal. Second, and most importantly, in this case, in every past case, 1995, also in 2013, the party that forces a government shutdown over a policy has lost both. In this case, separately, the Democrats lost the shutdown but won the politics. And the Republicans won the shutdown but lost the politics. So what I mean by that is, yes, we got the government back open, but healthcare has risen to the top. President Trump showed his true colors to the American people. He's at the lowest level he's ever been polled at. He's going to be the most dominant factor in the 2026 election. He has shown that he will go to the Supreme Court to deny hungry kids food so he can deny their parents health care. And that, over 40 days, is what's left. The American people, they don't know Chuck Schumer up or down or Democrats like this. Again, nobody does a firing squad in a circle like the Democratic Party. We're experts at that. But what you should remember is, in 40 days, the longest shutdown, the American people saw what the Republicans and the president would do. And in 2026, that's what's going to matter most. What not is exactly what I would say in focusing on Dr. Oz. You have been talking for 6 years, Mr. President, about a healthcare plan. Put one out that controls costs and gives people coverage and heals pre-existing condition. Never once has there been all the criticism a plan by the Republicans. They say they want to do it. Welcome into the deep end of the pool. It is really hard. Having actually taken on the insurance companies to give 10 million kids health care, and then also fought to help President Obama create Obamacare. It is very difficult, but you have to deal with it because it's more difficult if you don't deal with it for the American people. And Dr. Ellis used his point, he said he was held hostage. He wasn't held hostage. The family that you had on there, they're being held hostage by the insurance companies. And we have to deal with it. It is right in the 6 years since President Trump has talked about the fact that he would have a plan to replace
Obamacare does need to be reformed, you're saying?
No, what you have to do is reform the insurance companies. And this was a lifeline not only on coverage, but also on controlling costs that have exploded. In the last, since Donald Trump said in 2017, he's going to have a plan. Healthcare inflation is up 70% and still no plan.
I want to ask you about what's going to happen in your former place of work, the House of Representatives, this week. One of your former places of work. The Epstein files, the vote is going to happen. Do you think the Democrats should stay focused on this issue, or does it take away from the affordability message that clearly helped Democrats do well last week?
Here's what I think, and I would take a step back because I think the Epstein files, and yes, the short answer is to the first part of your question. Democrats should stay focused on it because American people are interested, and it's about powerful people getting away with a bloody murder, and they need to be held accountable. Number two, I think what's more important when you look at the fissures on the Republican side on this issue, you're entering for the first time, if you step back and take a wide lens view, Donald Trump is the most dominant factor in American politics since 2015, and not when he walked down the golden escalator. His days are waning, clear and present danger, but you're basically dealing, when you look at the Republican Party, a post-Trump MAGA world. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Epstein files, Indiana and Kansas won't follow them on him on redistricting. The cracks are beginning to appear. Our side, Donald Trump has been a dominant factor. The only thing that we think about is how to fight Donald Trump. We have to begin as a party to think about how we fight for America, not just fight Donald Trump. How do you fight for a middle class that has been forgotten and left on the side of the road? How do you fight the fact that 2/3 of our kids can't do reading and math at grade level, and every one of their competitors around the world can? We have to get to a place, not just about Donald Trump, but about America and its future. And the most important thing for that argument is 2028 will be the first election in 20 years that will be about the future, not the past. And that will be liberating for this country.
Ron Emanuel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And are we witnessing the breakup of the MAGA movement in real time? My panel weighs in next.
Oh my God. The panel is always like less interesting to me because I like to hear from the people. But yeah, let's hear what the panel, we'll tune in what the panel has to say. Well, okay, I just, can we do the midterms first, please? I don't want to have to. Woo. I mean, yeah, this is not a surprise, but I didn't expect, I certainly wouldn't have expected that on Sunday, November 16th, 2025, he would just really come right out with it. But I guess, it makes sense. It's very smart because, right, they're gonna focus on the split on the Republican side with their panel. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to talk about. But we're very clear about the absolute throwdown, the absolute fracturing, the civil war that's happening on the left. It's existential for them. And they know it. And so that is the takeaway for me in terms of having Rahm Emanuel on State of the Union this morning, like revealed, this great reveal. I was confused. They were teasing, Dana was teasing about the Democrats and the shutdown, but she's showing Jeffries and the clips but she was saying a 28 hopeful. And none of the people in Congress have, not even Gavin Newsom is admitting that he's a hopeful. So who was she talking? That was a clue that something surprising was about to happen. And yeah, so that is what we say in the legal field, prima facie evidence. It's just the thing, ipse loquitur or something. The thing speaks for itself. Rahm Emanuel being revealed as a presidential hopeful in 2028 is everything you need to know about the absolute total shambles that are the Democrat Party right now. And yeah, I'm not gonna really. I don't want to talk too much about that. But that was very interesting. That was very, very interesting because he's stepping forward because of the vacuum of leadership, because of the cratering of leadership. And listen, obviously, left, right, everyone is in a glass house right now. Everyone. It's a jump ball. It's a jump ball in politics. And I'm good with that. I am really, really good with that. And it's the most, it's more, it's oxymoron. It's I don't know if it's ironic. I don't know if it's an oxymoron. I don't know the right, phraseology for this, but a very strange thing has been happening. It's like the worse things have become in a way, the more excited I am, like the more motivated I am. I sort of hit a kind of bottom. I had a very big capitulation candle. I would say the month of September into October. I don't even want to speak on the things that were my, dark nights of the soul. I probably, wax about that later or in future writings, now that I've like pushed through to publish the first long read. I realized, everyone, that I had stopped my little blogging practice that started in 2006. I think my first blogs were in 2006. Okay, Blogspot, was that what it's called? WordPress, all of that. I mean, this has been a thing. I realized that the last time I had written anything in the realm of sort of a thought piece on a blog was 2020. How many of us are like just starting to recover from 2020? Like 5 years in, maybe we're beginning. I mean, one of two things is happening. You've completely lost your mind. It's just over for you. That's not like something that's joyful, but I laugh to keep from crying, as I said at the top of this stream. It's like sometimes the angrier I am, the more I will be smiling and laughing, to press through the grief. All right, I'm going to keep talking over a little bit of this, just to make a few more points, just to round out this point. Because these parts, I don't care what the panel has to say. Although I do watch a lot of it because it's very key to just really having a finger on the pulse. Even though I understand the ratings are not great, I don't. But it's still these are still the ruling classes. Still like the ruling class is following this. This is shaping their thinking. They are obsessed with this, so it behooves us to have some familiarity with the discourse that's happening on CNN, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News, and we just take it for what it is. But it's still, very meaningful in terms of all the things that trickle down to us in our lives. But I was talking about writing. Yes, that I am very, very proud of myself for finishing the long read. You can read it. I would like you to read it. It's called First I Got the Banny, Then I Got the Power. And it is giving you everything that you need to know about Kianga Ellis Projects, about the Rural Rapid Response Network, 3RN, and the new thing, Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association. And it's very high level stuff, because if you are thinking about joining the Circle of Trust, there's some study involved. There's some consideration. There's some work. And these are very, very, very crucial times. And so I am directing everyone to read that article, to go deeper than, 30-second video or a tweet, and really take some time with me on the things that I discuss in the essay. First, I got the Banny, then I got the power. And we will have plenty of time to walk through that. Let's see what the panel's talking about. But that is now pinned on X. If you're watching on X, go to @Kianga Ellis. Pinned is a link. It's on Substack. Posted. We're on Blue Sky, so I don't think any of you watching this are on Blue Sky, probably. But who knows? I don't know, because we're also streaming on YouTube, and I have a lot of friends that just would not even dare to soil their eyes on Rumble or X, which is a problem. Like MTG was saying, it's like, consider read the bridge between worlds. And but check out that essay, because that's really the departure. That's the starting point from where I want to talk with a more limited group of people, special people. You know who you are. If you're feeling it right now as I'm talking to you, then something is speaking to you. Like, I think I want to enter the circle of trust, and I want to find out what it's all about. Okay, so let's see what they're talking about.
Republican conference who are willing to take a stand on the discharge petition related to the Epstein files. And you have a president that has been hauling those women up to the White House to try to get them to stand down. And the one thing that I can say is that I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene when she says she is here for those women. Those women have been silenced for years, and it's not just about the president. It's about who else has been protected by rich and powerful people.
And those women have come out publicly and said Donald Trump had nothing to do with anything different.
And so why is it that the president will not just go forward and say, let the vote continue? Why is that?
I'm so glad you found Jesus.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Saying any of
This is like weak sauce.
Did he say she found Jesus as a kind of a slur?
Things you have to be important to know. Alan Dershowitz, Jillian Maxwell, and Jufrey all came out and said Trump had nothing to do with this.
Don't take the Lord's name in vain. Don't do that. Don't mock people like who found Jesus, or use that as a kind of dig. I don't like that.
Was he fully aware of what was happening? It seems clear by the emails that came out this week that he knew that Jeffrey Epstein was actually
that way.
He did know some things, which is why he excommunicated Jeffrey Epstein. And there's now evidence that Trump may have been the person who was
reading into our book time. Donald's trying to show for your book here. Stormed Washington and fought for Western civilization. Here's a quote. The era of the scripted politician is over, and the ones who succeed in the future will authentically speak in their own minds instead of someone else's. Trump blazed a trail, and it will be fascinating to see if anyone in either party can ever approach replicating the connection he has with his people. What's the answer to that question?
Well, I don't think you'll ever be able to replicate Donald Trump. Carrying the coalition forward, will be left to others. But replicating this moment, replicating the last 10 years, replicating the authenticity, he has changed politics, he's changed media. And frankly, what the book is about is that he revolutionized government. When he came into this Trump 2.0 term, he picked the right team. They had a plan. I mean, he really hit Washington before it got out of bed in the morning, and he hasn't really stopped. The book, I picked up a lot of topics where he just, they knew what they wanted to do. They apologized to no one. They waited for no one. They don't respect old arrangements. And most people that I know that voted for him can't believe how much he's been able to get done.
He's breaking the rules, Donald Trump, but he's also breaking the system. And that's the problem I think a lot of people have. If Donald Trump just came to office and he decided he wanted to build a ballroom, people would say fine. But the problem is he's not going by the system that actually determines what we get to do with them.
Actually, no, Jamal, that's not the problem. He was elected to break the system. just to clarify that.
I mean, we're seeing it in all the different ways, not just the cosmetics of what's happening in Washington, but the system of what's happening. Even the British intelligence agencies don't want to share intelligence with us, and they're one of our greatest allies. This is a big problem for the country.
I thought that I would never agree with Scott Jennings on anything, and I believe that you're right. It is about authenticity, but it is also about actually supporting and defending the Constitution, which we're not.
Amen.
We have to go. It's a terrific book.
Yeah.
Lots of great narratives in here, including that meeting that you went to with the president and his national security team.
Yes,
There's a teaser. Tonight, the world had never seen a prime minister.
Okay, no, we don't want to hear about the Prime Minister of New Zealand. No, we don't. We don't. Okay. So, all right. That was boring. As it always is. They're experts, they're a panel of just clueless people. No. I mean, I have great respect for Jamal Simmons actually, and those are smart people. But everyone has a point of view. They have a book that they talk and they get on and they talk their book. So we are now, if you're just joining, if you're just tuning in, hello, GM. Welcome to the Kianga Ellis Projects Sunday Shows Watch Party. We are halfway through. We're at least halfway through. I decided that it would be fun to share the suffering of watching the mainstream political shows every Sunday, to share that with you. And it would be more fun if, we did it together. And I got to, instead of yelling into an empty room or to like one other person, this way I get to, share what I'm seeing real time with a wider audience. And you all can talk back. You can talk back. If you're watching this stream on X or Rumble or YouTube, you can say hello. First of all, if you just type in your little hi, and it will show up on the screen. And we can just hang out these on Sunday mornings. Maybe I'll do this regularly. 9:58. Okay, 2 minutes. I'm going to stretch my legs, change the channel, because now we're going to watch Meet the Press, which is always so painful. I don't want to be silly, but I find the host of Meet the Press to be so false, like just extremely plastic in presentation, and that just kind of irks me. There's a kind of like deep inauthenticity there that I don't know. I don't want to pick on people, but that just makes it hard to watch. But we're going to watch Meet the Press with Kristen Welker on NBC. And I'm going to stretch my legs. And that's it. That's what we're doing. It's like that. The title is there. Watch party. That's it. We're watching it. And I'm giving you my hot takes. All right, let's do it. And I'm going to stretch my legs.
Champions tour players from all over the world. Competition will be tense. Heat will be comfy. Skechers World Champions Cup, December 4th and 5th on ESPN and ESPN Plus, and the 7th on ABC.
Johnny, you still calling my daughter's birthday party?
I have to sell my car.
Well, just sell it to Carvana.
Carvana?
Isn't that your car?
Okay, fine. I sold it to Carvana. Thank you.
So you'll come.
We're going to walk. Sell your car to Carvana today.
Brand Cherokee, from the most awarded SUV brand. Hurry in today and wrap up the year with no monthly payments for 90 days. Jeep, there's only one. Or during the Jeep Black Friday sales event, all qualified current FCA lessees can lease the 2026 Jeep Wrangler Sport S for $319 a month. See your Capital Area Jeep brand dealer. 13 Investigates. Coverage you can trust.
This Sunday, paying the price. The longest government shutdown in history ends, but Democrats come up empty-handed in their fight for healthcare affordability, revealing a divide in the party.
My concern is that the lesson that they're learning is that Democrats are weak.
This was the only deal on the table.
Was the 43-day standoff worth it?
They didn't achieve anything with this at all.
We should not forget this when we come up to midterms.
Plus, records release. Congress gets ready to vote on a bipartisan effort to force the release of the Epstein files as new emails from the convicted sex offender emerge, mentioning Donald Trump.
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong.
This Epstein vote, the record is going to last longer than Trump's presidency.
Will Republicans vote to block the release and break up? President Trump turns against one of his biggest supporters. Is the MAGA movement fracturing?
MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
My guest this morning, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, and Democratic Congressman Bo Khanna of California. Joining me for insight and analysis are NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander, Leanne Caldwell, Chief Washington Correspondent for Pop, Jamel Bowie, opinion columnist for the New York Times, and Lonnie Chen, a fellow at the Hoover Institution. Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest running show in television history. This is Meet the Press with Kristen Welken.
Good Sunday morning. With the longest government shutdown in history now over, Democrats and Republicans are grappling with the fallout. 8 senators in the Democratic caucus voted with Republicans to reopen the government without the extension of those Obamacare tax credits that were at the center of the shutdown fight. With insurance premiums for millions of Americans set to increase next year if those subsidies aren't extended. Meanwhile, a bipartisan bill to release the Epstein files has garnered enough support to force a vote on the floor of the House, which is scheduled for this week, causing a major rift between President Trump and one of his longtime allies, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's pushing for the release of the files. Plus, the president now ordering the Department of Justice to investigate Democrats with alleged ties to the deceased sex offender. And against this backdrop, a new batch of emails from Epstein's estate has raised new questions about Mr. Trump's relationship with a former finance team.
Epstein and I had a very good relationship for many years. He also switched right from his own person. So he dictated a couple of memos and something we agree.
And joining me now is Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Senator Kaine, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Glad to be with you, Kristen. Thanks.
Well, it's wonderful to have you back. Let's talk about the government reopening. You were, of course, one of 8 Democrats in your caucus to vote to reopen the government in exchange for a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies. But here's what you told me last month, Senator, about taking that kind of a deal. Take a look.
Offering a vote in the Senate without a commitment that it would pass, without a commitment that the House would even take it up is an empty offer.
And yet, Senator, that's exactly what you voted for. So what changed in just 4 short weeks?
Well, Kristen, actually, I didn't vote for just that. We got a couple of other key wins for the American people that led me to switch my no vote to yes. So we got full year funding for the SNAP program that President Trump and the Republicans have been trying to gut, robust funding to protect 45 million Americans who rely on SNAP, and full year funding for some other important priorities like the Veterans Administration. And then when I joined the negotiation, really just 48 hours before it came to a head, I was able to negotiate with Republican colleagues in the White House key protections for federal employees. Everybody who's furloughed comes back with back pay. All the folks that President Trump fired since October 1 come back with back pay. And most importantly, a guarantee of no mass firings, no rifts going forward. So those 2 items, together with the guarantee of a vote on health care, on a proposal that the Democrats put on the table. We didn't have any of that on October 1. We had that by last Sunday, and that's why I switched my no vote to yes.
Well, and Senator, of course, Mark Warner, who also represents Virginians, voted no. Why do you think he saw this fight so differently?
I don't want to put words in anybody else's mouth, but I mean, here, it was an assessment of what Republicans would do. You know, today there's going to be a lot of good football games today, and every team goes in with the game plan to start. But if the game plan isn't producing what you want at halftime, the coach goes in and says, we're going to make some adjustments. 40 days in, the Republicans were saying, we know we need to talk about healthcare, but we will not engage on healthcare until government is reopened. Now, it's fair to test somebody's red lines, and we tested them over and over again in October, and they didn't budge from it. So frankly, I viewed the situation last weekend as we had no path, none, to a healthcare fix until we reopened government. Now we have a path, not a guarantee, but we at least have a path. And Democrats need to do all we can to put the best proposal on the table within a month, and then force everyone, Democrats and Republicans, to declare whether they're going to stand on the side of the American public and reduce healthcare costs.
Well, Senators, you know, you and the other Democrats who did vote to reopen the government are taking some heat from some of your Democratic colleagues, including Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Here's how she describes the lessons that she thinks Republicans learned from all of this.
Given the lesson that they're learning, Democrats are weak, and that next time we just need to hurt more people and make America more to get them to hold. And I don't want them to learn that lesson.
Senator, what do you say to that argument that Democrats projected weakness here?
So twofold. I have 320,000 federal employees in Virginia, and together with their families, that's probably 700,000 dependents. Getting them all back to work with 2 paychecks that they've missed restored, with protections against future firings. You know, some folks like AOC may think that's nothing. Virginians think it's an awful lot. And second, if the goal was to try to get healthcare front and center, she was not at the table with the Republicans in the Senate. And so maybe she thinks that the Republicans would have caved. Would it have been another week of SNAP recipients losing their SNAP benefits, another month of air traffic, our air travelers enduring chaos and even danger, another 2 months of federal employees losing their paychecks? I was at the table with the Republican senators, and I knew if we wanted to get to the healthcare discussion, we had to open up government. And that was a vantage point I had that a lot of folks who were lobbying criticism didn't. I'm getting great feedback from Virginians, and those are the 8.5 million people that I represent.
And yet, Senator, you had said the goal was to get a vote, to hold a vote on extending those healthcare subsidies. That wasn't a part of the final deal. Polls showed that more people were actually blaming Americans in this battle. Do you believe that Democrats lost any leverage that you might have against Republicans moving forward for the next fight?
So, Kristen, what I was saying during the whole month of October is, for me, Tim Kaine, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I didn't need all the I's dotted and T's crossed on healthcare, but what I needed was a moratorium on mischief so that the president couldn't continue to abuse federal employees and congressionally funded programs. So I actually...
A moratorium on mischief. I love this. You know, mischiefs of faction is something I write about. Well, I've been mentioning, it's mentioned in the essay. This is from the Federalist paper number 10. This is the key to what we need to confront, mischiefs of faction. So I love that. I'm going to use that.
Forward to do what we all want to do. And now there is that path forward, and we have to, you know, do our very, very best to make it mean something.
So the Senate is expected to vote on extending healthcare subsidies, and yet House Speaker Mike Johnson has not committed to putting a bill on the floor. What, if any, assurances do you have from House Republicans that they will hold a vote on extending these Obamacare subsidies?
Kristen, so here's my experience based on 13 years in the Senate. If we do something in the Senate that gains bipartisan support, and that's what we need to do, it can't just be a Democratic messaging document. Many Republicans in the House and Senate have said, we know we need to fix this. The reconciliation bill is responsible for jacking up people's health care costs. And if we don't fix it, we're going to face an angry electorate next November. So if we come up with a good bipartisan proposal that is able to pass the House, you're right, the Speaker's given no guarantees, but with a number of Republican House members who said, including from my own state, who said, we've got to fix this. It would be political malpractice of the highest order for the House to not take up a bipartisan bill coming out of the Senate. And if they don't take it up, I'll give you a prediction. The November 2026 elections are going to look a whole lot worse for Republicans than the November 2025 elections did, when we just swept Virginia in a historic way and won big races in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Georgia, California, all over the country. Americans will see who's standing with them and who's standing against them on affordability of healthcare. That will be clarifying. And I think the fact of that is the window that we have of being able to find a solution.
Well, Senator, looking to the future, if Democrats cannot get an agreement on Obamacare subsidies, do you rule out shutting down the government again in January?
Don't ask me to assume failure on the effort that we're undertaking. I think we can, we ought to plan for success and then adjust if we don't get it. As you point out, the
These people plan for failure. What is he talking about?
care vote in December. So we'll have a chance to put our best foot forward, let the American public see. And Kristen, the public will see this debate on healthcare without it being drowned out by air traffic delays, SNAP recipients losing benefits, federal employees losing their paychecks for the third or fourth time. It would have been hard to grab everybody's attention on the healthcare issue if all of the other consequences of shutdown were drowning it out. Now the government is open, and now the American public will watch this healthcare debate and we'll see which side are you on.
Okay, I don't hear you ruling it out, Senator, just for the record. I do want to move on, though, because we're almost out of time. I want to take a big picture look at the Democratic Party. More than a dozen House members are calling for Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer to step down, including my next guest, Congressman Ro Khanna. Senator, given that so many Democrats are calling for Leader Schumer to step aside, can he be an effective leader?
Yes, Chuck has been an effective leader. Remember when Chuck was...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean how that probably looks. Ugh, things are so awful right now. I didn't mean the way that I think that looks. I just mean that I do not like Chuck Schumer, and he should go away. That's all I meant. And he should just go away by stepping aside. My God, obviously. Oh, we have to change the way things are in this country. This cannot continue.
So I don't tell Ro Khanna or AOC or anybody else who you should pick as your House leader, because I got a full-time job being a senator. I don't need to freelance opinions about House leadership. They should focus on their own leadership and let senators do what we need to do to keep this country moving forward.
Senator, just very quickly, did Leader Schumer give you his blessing to end the shutdown?
No, he did not. He
Tacit or otherwise? I understand that, but did he give you his tacit blessing?
Absolutely not. But Chuck and I
Absolutely not.
a couple of years ago, where I was going a different direction than he was on something, and he was really, really pushing me. And I said, Chuck, listen, my goal with you is always to inform you, but I don't need a permission slip from you because 8.5 million Virginians gave me that permission slip in November of 2024. He voted the other way. He would have preferred that I not voted the way that I did, but he knows that U.S. senators are going to do what's in the interest of their constituents. And my 320,000 federal workers and their families are a powerful, powerful part of who I represent. And when I could get important protections for them after a year being kicked around by Donald Trump, I said, I'm ready to sign on.
All right, Senator Tim Kaine, thank you so much for joining us, starting us off this morning. We really appreciate it.
It is very appreciated.
You too. When we come back, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna.
They really appreciate when the politicians come on and talk on Meet the Press. It's really appreciated. Well, okay. So what do we think about that? It's very quiet in the chat. It's very quiet in the chat. This is fun. Are you all having fun? I'm having fun. So, all right, maybe we should do this on Sundays. Should I have a watch party every Sunday? Should I invite you into the 3RN HQ, Kianga Ellis Projects Studio, Mud Lake Legal headquarters where all the madness happens every Sunday, and we can suffer together? It's better to suffer together. Misery loves company. So that's all that this is. I usually watch like 3 or more hours of political shows on Sunday mornings, and it is a form of misery. And so you all are here to be a part of my suffering, and that together, by sharing this moment together, it becomes more bearable. Let's see. We'll have another 20 minutes or more of, people that are interesting to hear from. I mean, whether they're interesting to hear from is maybe not accurate, but it's relevant to hear what is said from these people who are our elected officials on the Sunday show. So that's why we watch them. And the reason why Kianga Ellis Projects is watching is that our evolution as a project, as a pastime, as a hobby that's been 20 years in formation, in the making of Kianga Ellis, myself, I'm Kianga Ellis, doing lots of things involving the internet and philanthropy and the arts and community. I'm entering my 3rd decade of this kind of thing, which just is unbelievable. But if you want to see a little bit of the archive of all of that madness from the 2000s until now, we've put some things up on kiangaellis.com. So check out kiangaellis.com, and you can, just flip around and see what social practice art looks like. And you're now part of social practice art. How does that feel? But we're doing more than just staying contained within this kind of visual arts tradition of social practice. And we're actually needing to get out and about among real people in the real world and take new action, new activity, new interest in politics. Oh my God, that was
What
quick.
are you doing? What is Sam Liccardo doing, a Democrat working with Republicans to try to come to a compromise?
But to the crux of this question, how do you actually get this resolved? There are people actively suffering right now. The lines in food banks were getting longer. Food assistance programs were in limbo. And I guess the question is, how long were you prepared to let that suffering go on, Congressman?
Well, it's cruel, as Representative Ocasio-Cortez said. I mean, this administration, Donald Trump, was giving $20 billion in a currency swap to a corrupt leader in Argentina instead of $9 billion, which would have funded SNAP the whole time. And some of us were saying we would have voted for Republican Josh Hawley's bill to extend SNAP benefits if Speaker Johnson just opened up the House. But you can't have a precedent where the president says he's going to do cruel things to the American people unless the Democrats fold. This was a moral moment. We can pay for SNAP in this country, and we can extend healthcare tax credit. For the richest country in the world, my district has $18 trillion. And people are saying, what is going on with all this tech wealth? And we can't feed people and give people healthcare.
Let's talk about your call for Senator Schumer to step down. Some Democrats are rushing to his bench. You just heard Senator Kaine defend him. Senator Jean Shaheen also defended him. Here's what she had to say.
They need to train their fire on the people who are responsible. That's President Donald Trump, it's Speaker Johnson, and it's the Republicans who have blocked every attempt to get health care. We need to be working together.
Why do you think Leader Schumer is to blame, given that Republicans have control as...
I know we want to hear what he says, but he looks very presidential, don't you think?
agree with both of these senators. Senator Kane said that Senator Schumer was,
I mean, that's a very nice suit.
and he was. I worked with him on the Chips and Science Act.
He's another one, 28.
There's leadership, same with the infrastructure bill and IRA. And Senator Sheen is right that the biggest culprit is Donald Trump and Mike Johnson.
Just gonna skip the Senate. He's gonna go straight from the House and go for the presidency. Watch.
Who is going to be effective? And most Democrats around the country just don't think that person is Chuck Schumer. I mean, he doesn't inspire confidence. He's not bold. He's out of touch with the grassroots. He's someone who led us into the war in Iraq. He doesn't have the moral clarity on Gaza. He couldn't say Mamdani's name. And this was the final straw where he was not strong on fighting for healthcare.
So who is the person who you think should lead
Not
Democrats into the future in the Senate? Who's at the top of that list for you, Congressman?
Well, Senator Kane has already given me a hard time for just saying that their minority leader should be someone different. I think if I endorsed someone, it would probably hurt them more than help them. But we have dynamic, young, new leaders.
Who are some of the top
Chris Murphy is a top leader, and Cory Booker is a dynamic leader. Brian Schatz is a dynamic leader. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, someone who's an ideology.
Oh,
Talent. And really, is Chuck.
let's keep Chuck. If Elizabeth Warren has any chance, I will vote to keep Chuck, please, for them, please. No, Elizabeth Warren.
Said loud what people are thinking in their own private thoughts. And you know what the Democrats need to do? We need to be more independent and truth-telling in this country and bold and not rest on niceties.
Well, I want to turn to the other big issue that you have been focused on, pushing for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Your joint bill with Thomas Massey is going to come to a vote on the House floor. It's expected to this week. Do you think you have enough votes for it to pass?
We do, and there's nothing I have been prouder of or more meaningful than this work. It's the credit goes to the survivors. They're going to be at the Capitol on Tuesday in a press conference. Massey, myself, and Representative Green are doing. It was disgusting. Epstein had set up a rape island where rich and powerful men were abusing young girls with impunity. And there are thousands of victims, and rich and powerful men still have buildings named after them, scholarships named after them. This is not partisan. They all need to be held accountable. The Epstein class needs to go.
How many Republicans are going to join you? Could you have a veto-proof majority?
Well, I was hoping that, and then Donald Trump started to tweet out saying that he's going to unendorse people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So it's basically Massey and me versus the White House. And they're calling members to the Situation Room. But you know why Trump is losing his MAGA base on this? The reason he's losing it is he ran saying there's a corrupt governing elite that has shafted you. That this is the Epstein class versus forgotten Americans, and I'm going to stand up for forgotten Americans. He's forgotten those forgotten Americans. And we are saying that we are going to stand up for survivors, for America's kids, and we're going to hold this class accountable.
Very quickly, how many Republicans do you think are joining you?
I'm hoping for 40 plus.
Okay. Look, in response to your effort to push this bill forward, President Trump this week called on the Justice Department to launch an investigation into some of the people who've been named related to Jeffrey Epstein, including in these recent emails. Bill Clinton, former Harvard president, Larry Summers. Do you support?
JP Morgan Chase. I want people to talk about the banks, please. Can we talk about the financing of all of this? It's starting to come out in the talking points, but that's where I want this to go. That's what I want to get into. I want to hear about that.
There's an active investigation. You don't have to release the files. So what I'm for is transparency. Release the files and then have the accountability for anyone, regardless of their party.
Let me ask you, this week, the Democratic House Oversight Committee, which you're a part of, did release all of these emails from Mr. Epstein. In one of them, he said President Trump, quote, knew about the girls. The president's calling these emails a Democratic hoax. Republicans are saying that Democrats are just cherry picking these documents. Are Democrats trying to score political points against the president in this fight? Is that a part of it?
No, in fact, on Tuesday, what we're going to ask is for the president to meet with these survivors. If you gave me a choice, I'd rather the president reverse course. I'd rather he release all these files someone was saying that his numbers would go up. I don't care if he gets the political win. There is a group of rich and powerful men who abused young girls. It's the one thing this country agrees was horrible. I don't think we've had a scandal like this in this country. And what we're asking for is justice for those survivors. So it's not about Donald Trump. I don't even know how involved Trump was. There are a lot of other people who are involved who have to be held accountable.
You have said this is about justice, this is about transparency, and yet I want to play something that you said earlier this week, get your reaction on the other side.
I'm hopeful that we may get 40, 50 Republicans voting with the Democrats. The first time something like that has happened since Donald Trump walked down the escalator. Some people say this could be the first day of him being a lame duck, the day that bill passes.
If this is about justice, what does that have to do with making President Trump a lame duck president?
Well, it's because of what Trump has done. I mean, I wish that Donald Trump would prevent that by actually releasing the files. But if he goes down this lane where he is actually calling to unenforce people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, where he's threatening every Republican in MAGA, saying that if you support the Kana bill, that you're not on my side, then he is sowing the seeds for his own lame duck presidency. He's out of touch with his own base. Don't ask me, just look at Rasmussen, People's Pundit. All these people who are on his side are now saying, you know, Mr. President, what happened to you? You ran up against a corrupt system. You ran for forgotten Americans. You become part of the swamp that you railed against. And again, my hope is that if he listens today, I know you interview him all the time, that he says, okay, I'm going to meet these survivors. I'm going to get behind Massey Kana's bill. I really think that's the right thing to do, and it's good for him politically.
Well, we will track that press conference you're going to be holding this week. Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Great to see you as always. When we come back, Republican Senator John Barrasso, the Senate Majority Whip, joins me next.
Okay, that'll be good. That'll be good. All right. Rep Ro Khanna looking pretty spiffy this morning. Kristen does a good job. She does a good job. I don't want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about Epstein. I just, other than to say what I said about the financing, that's what I want to know more about. That's where I want the conversation to go. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So, how are we doing? How's everybody this morning? GM. I should just do another little brief plug for the essay that dropped last night. First, I got the Banny, then I got the Power. And I think we've got enough to deal with just, watching the shows and, just seeing where the wind is blowing this morning on who is featured on the shows, what the talking points are, and then, those are the clips that will get circulated. I can't wait to see what people are saying about Rahm Emanuel. So that will be fun. And what else? I guess at the top of the hour, let's see what they're talking about on Fox. And then I didn't eat, you guys. I didn't eat. So I'm fading. I'll be honest, I'm fading a little bit. I get up very early, so I'm getting a slump in my energy, to be honest. I had my second coffee already. Where is it? With my John Dean for Senate. From last year, No Fear, Never Give Up. I was in Worcester, Mass on Monday this past week for Mr. Deaton's big announcement that he is running again. Thank the Lord. Because we just need John Deaton in Washington. Like it is imperative. It's imperative not only for Massachusetts, my home where I was born and raised, for the region, New England, nor the Northeast, but for all of America, All right.
Thank you, Kristen.
Well, it's great to have you on, Senator. Let's start off by talking about this battle over healthcare. Democrats demanding a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies. Will you vote yes to extend Obamacare subsidies, Senator?
Well, as Senator Kaine said, they're going to bring a bill to the floor, and I'm going to see what's in that bill. I'm a doctor. I practiced medicine in Wyoming for 24 years, and I've always wanted people to get the care they need from a doctor that they choose at a price they can afford. And Obamacare basically destroyed that possibility. Remember, President Obama promised you could keep your doctor, you could keep your policy, and insurance costs would go down by $2,500 a family. The exact opposite happened. Costs doubled. Insurance companies got very rich because the government kept sending money to national insurance companies to prop up the failures of Obamacare. The subsidies are about 80% of the cost of the insurance. Even the New York Times and Washington Post said Obamacare is pricey. It was never affordable. So there have been all these subsidies.
I mean, I want people to talk. I mean, you're not going to hear from the doctors, but let's talk about how many practitioners are out of network, how many practitioners can't even participate in the coverages that are available. I guess politically, doctors and dentists, they're not, they're not going to be out here talking about politics and policy, but there's so much to, there's so much to this issue.
Putting another big Band-Aid on a gaping wound that needs major surgery.
So you're saying you won't extend them in their current form. I hear you critiquing Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act, Senator, passed 15 years ago. Republicans have been criticizing it.
I mean, the best doctors don't even take insurance. Right? So, I mean, they don't take a lot of the insurance that is available. It's almost like a sign that a doctor is not a good doctor if they take insurance. Right? Am I speaking a real thing? I think I am. Can we talk about how that just is absolutely backwards?
What we've seen is health insurance companies, stocks have gone up 500 to 1,000% since Obamacare became law. We can't continue to subsidize this failure. If people are given the money to make their own decisions and buy what works best for them and for their families, I think that the choice, the opportunities are much, much better. Now, on this committee, of course, is Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and they want to do one size fits all government-run healthcare that they have.
And of course, many of you know that they will charge you more if you have insurance. Like, why are there different prices for things that if, and you can't get the price, you can't get, is it called the cash price? I've seen some people talking about their experiences on this. This is a scam. I mean, this is so wrong in so many ways.
We need a plan to lower the cost of healthcare in America. I know very well what's going on in Wyoming with 40,000 people who are on Obamacare get very high subsidies, over $900 a month.
So do you want to repeal it, Senator? Do you want to repeal it?
I want to make sure we have a healthcare plan that works for the American people, and Obamacare has failed. We cannot continue just continuing to subsidize a failing plan, which is causing more and more costs and hardship around.
No, he doesn't have a plan, Kristen. He doesn't have a plan.
$1 billion more dollars to prop up Obamacare, which has failed. And of course, they first started the shutdown, which has been a disaster for the country, by demanding more money for healthcare for illegal immigrants. I mean, that's where they have gone. We need to work to get a healthcare insurance program that works to lower the cost. And the way you do that is put people in charge to make those decisions. And that's what I've been fighting for.
Senator, as you know, you bring up the shutdown. President Trump was calling on Republicans to get rid of the filibuster. He had continued those calls, Senator, even with the shutdown over. Are you 100% confident that the filibuster will still be intact at the end of President Trump's second term?
Well, President Trump makes a compelling argument. I've always supported the filibuster because I view that as a tool that we have as conservatives to prevent Democrats from doing things that I think would be very bad for the country. And they've said what they'd like to do. So I think Democrats would love for Republicans to get rid of the filibuster because the Democrats want to make sure that DC and Puerto Rico become states with 4 new Democrat senators. They want to change voting rules to get rid of voter ID, make it easier for illegal immigrants to vote. We know that what they want to do is put 4 new members on the Supreme Court who don't really follow the Constitution. In my opinion, those things would be disastrous for the country. So I believe that we're going to, and I continue to support the filibuster.
But Senator, just to be very clear, would you rule out ending the filibuster, voting to end the filibuster?
Well, I support the filibuster, as do I believe a majority of Republicans in the Senate, so I expect it's going to continue to be here.
They don't answer.
Trump has been very consistent. And I'll tell you, I appreciate his leadership during this shutdown because we have the Democrats have put this country through tremendous pain with this shutdown. And we just heard from your former guest, we'd still be in a shutdown today if it were up to the majority of the Democrats.
Okay, let me turn to the other big story we are tracking today, which is the big battle over the Epstein files. President Trump has referred to this as a hoax. Do you believe that it's a hoax?
Well, let me give you my take on this whole issue, because of course I want accountability. You want to make sure there's transparency. You want to make sure that the victims are taken care of. What you're concerned, and I'm concerned, is that if there's information out here about other individuals that need to be prosecuted, they need to be prosecuted. But what I saw Ro Khanna say is they want to make President Trump a lame duck president. This is all about him. I fully believe that.
I mean, he just is a lame duck president. No one has to make him a lame duck president. I mean, I'm just to be precise.
They had gone after him with double barrels. But this is an administration, the Biden administration, which abused justice. They've gone after 8 United States senators, spied on them, went after their phone records, targeted them. So they have abused the laws of the land. And I think they would have gone after President Trump if there was anything there. To me, this Epstein matter, as well as the shutdown, but they're trying to get out of the pain they've caused the country in the shutdown. And that's why the Democrats want to use this. And they want to make President Trump a lame duck president.
You take me to my next point, because President Trump this week asked the Justice Department to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with some top Democrats. And yet in July, the Justice Department and the FBI released a memo about the Epstein case that said, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." Senator, if there wasn't evidence to justify further investigation in July, why is there evidence now?
I'm not sure what evidence is out there. What I do know is that the House is going to vote this week, try to make a decision, and we'll see if they send something to the Senate. And if they do, we'll take a look at that. But we want transparency and accountability. What I also know is that Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender, and he is dead. And President Trump threw him out of Mar-a-Lago 21 years ago. To me, what's going on with the Epstein, what's going on also with the shutdown, is this is the Democrats trying to appeal to their far left base and trying to change the topic from a failed shutdown, which hurt many, many Americans, like a lot of people I was with last night at a veterans event in Wyoming, where they wanted to talk about the pain each one of them experienced in the shutdown, and Epstein never came up for discussion.
But Senator, very quickly, 4 months ago, the Justice Department said there was nothing to investigate. And then hours after President Trump called for an investigation, Pam Bondi said she was opening an investigation. Is that appropriate from your perspective?
I think there's a lot more important things to talk about right now to get the country.
So he can't answer. It's just, this is too hard for people to defend. That's why it's just very hard.
On that, not on what's happened to a convicted sex offender who is now dead.
Senator, if the Epstein measure passes the House, will it get a vote in the Senate?
It'll come to the Senate. We'll take a look at it. If it passes the House, we'll see what it says. And we all want accountability and transparency. But to me, this is not about truth. It's not about justice. This is about an attempt by the Democrats to make President Trump a lame duck president, and I'm not going to aid and abet them in their efforts.
But you don't commit to a vote, Senator? You don't commit to holding a vote if the Epstein measure passes in the House? Just very quickly, we're almost out of time.
Well, but what I've said and what Senate Leader Thune has said is we'll look at it, we'll look at what's come over. I don't even know that it's going to pass the House. The Senate will make a decision, we'll have a discussion about it and make a decision from there.
All right, let me ask you about this feud between President Trump and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who does support the full release of the Epstein files. Congresswoman Greene has been critical of what she has described as President Trump's fight to get these files released. She says, quote, most Americans wish he would fight this hard to help the forgotten men and women of America who are fed up with foreign wars and foreign causes, are going broke trying to feed their families, and are losing hope of ever achieving the American dream. Senator, do you believe that President Trump is out of touch with his own MAGA base?
And I'm not going to get into the issue between the two of those. Oh no, President Trump is fully in tune with where we need to go as a country and getting America back on track. We've had the most successful years you can imagine in terms of reversing the damage done by the Biden administration. The president is fully focused. We passed the working families tax cut bill. I heard about that from ranchers, from coal miners, people all around Wyoming. Heard about it last night at the veterans event. People that are very happy with the fact that we're going to have more money in their pockets. And what we need to do is make sure life is affordable for those folks. That's the president's focus. That's the Republican focus. That's where we need to take this country. We need to remove the distractions. The president is totally focused in on getting America back on track. We've had great wins for energy. We've had great wins at the border. He has secured the border, and we're
She's like, all right, wrap it up.
Senator John Barraza, thank you so much for being here this Sunday. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kristen.
When we come back, JFK's grandson announces a run for Congress.
Okay, so you guys, obviously, this is entertainment, right? This is bread and circuses. This is entertainment. This is a stage. All over the world is a stage. So we watch it and we are entertained. But it's not all that we're doing. We're not going to chase every little piece of yarn that's dangled in front of us. We are not going to follow the smell of cheese through the maze. We also, this is the whole focus of this channel of Kianga Ellis Projects. Citizen adjacent action. Citizens adjacent, alongside, in parallel action. So we'll have fun on Sundays suffering. We'll have fun suffering through the political shows. And we will, keep up somewhat with the spectacle on social media, because we recognize its role in our society and what a powerful virtual public square that it just is. We maybe don't always like that, but it's the reality. It's the situation in which we find ourselves. Nevertheless, Kianga Ellis Projects, the Rural Rapid Response Network, 3RN, we are doing things in meat space. We are not only online, making our appeal, shouting into the void, battling the algorithm. We're making spaces. We are making places. Like, we are literally restoring historic buildings to build and create what we have lost in terms of our physical environment, the nexus of connection, person to person, human to human, outside of these silos and outside of the echo chambers that have been reinforced and have been reinforcing and are, a big factor in where we find politics and our own lives, our personal struggles and experience and challenges amplified since 2020 and the lockdowns. This is like at the heart of what we are attacking, we're addressing, we're curing, that we need to cure if anything else is going to work. Okay.
But for the Senate, he joined Meet the Press and talked about the growing political footprint of his state.
People say there are two Kennedys in important political offices now, and that a third would be one too many. What's your answer to that?
Mr. Spivak, I'm not, if I do announce for the Senate, I will not be running as the Kennedy candidate, but I would hope as the Democratic candidate. And I would be relying upon the judgments of the people of Massachusetts to make a determination whether they thought that I could be effective in representing them in the capacity in which I would run for political office in Massachusetts.
There has been related to this campaign issue of the Kennedy dynasty in American politics. I wonder if you could tell us how you feel about the presence of a family such as yours occupying that number of key positions in American life.
Well, Mr. Clerman, if you're talking about too many Kennedys, you should have talked to my mother and father at the time when they were getting started.
When we come back, President Trump breaks up with one of his biggest supporters. Is the MAGA base fracturing? The panel is next.
Okay, I don't want to hear from the panel, but we'll check. We'll listen. We'll pop in on a little bit of that. I love the old clips. I love the old clips that they show on Meet the Press. Massachusetts. I wonder if Massachusetts is going to be very significant in 2026. I wonder. So, all right, where was I? I was talking about IRL. I was talking about the work of Kianga Ellis Projects, and as much as we are using the new tools, Web3, blockchain, a protocol called Juicebox. And what's, I think, exciting about what we're doing is we are, and I have been seeking how to wrestle the potential for good, for our needs, our needs as regular people to not continue to be pawns, to not continue to be source, to not continue to be fodder and just be manipulated and extracted and sort of destroyed and chopped up in the machine of things. So that is why, Kianga Ellis Projects has evolved in particularly the last year. And that citizen adjacent action is, I would say it's at this point primary, and that the art focus and arts engagement now comes within that umbrella, because it's really just an expression. It's one of many forms of expression of this broader value set, of this broader mission around us taking responsibility for our lives, our own communities, being our brother's keeper, for us tuning out a lot of what's happening here and the noise that's happening on our devices that we get sucked in, and we're losing more and more. We're losing our own agency. We're losing our minds. We're losing our mental faculties, which is why I think you should all celebrate with me that I published the long read on Substack. We posted it last night. If you are on Substack, go ahead and subscribe to Kianga Ellis Projects at Kianga Ellis. go ahead and like and share the essay. First, I got the Banny, then I got the Power. And it is going to walk you through my journey over this past year of activities and investigations and research that form a kind of conceptual and philosophical underpinning to the work, to the project. All right, let's see what they're going to talk about. Just a few minutes. I don't think I can take the whole thing, but let's see.
And Lonnie Chen, a fellow at the Hoover Institution, thanks to all of you for being here after a very big week of headlines. Peter, I want to start with you where I left off with Senator Barrasso, which is this breakup that we're seeing between President Trump and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
She's upset with him for a range of different issues, not just Jeffrey Epstein, affordability, healthcare, his focus on foreign wars. Do you see this as a feud with one person, or does it represent a bigger fracture?
Well, to be clear, I think this is more about issues than it is individuals, although she has her own personal issues with President Trump here. 6 months ago, this would have been unfathomable. She is one of the most vocal allies of the president as part of the MAGA movement. She said that he personally inspired her to run over the course of it. But I think in the last 6 months, or certainly the last several weeks, we have seen cracks within MAGA. And there's now this division where there's not the unity there once was, where specifically you see MAGA versus, I think, this America First wing. Some people specifically on that topic in particular. To think about the places where Marjorie Taylor Greene has differed from the president that have resonated. First, get rid of the focus on foreign policy, right? The topic of Israel has been so divisive for that movement. Venezuela, $20 billion being sent to Argentina. They say she says the focus needs to be on domestic issues. She told our colleagues at NBC News, it's not America first, it's America only hardcore. And the thing that was striking to me as it relates to Epstein, which is really what triggered all this, was Ro Khanna earlier in the broadcast saying, just the fact that Donald Trump is going after MTG says that he could go after anybody. Nobody's safe. Khanna said, he's afraid that some Republicans are going to peel back because of that.
That was the headline, I think, for me too, Peter. Leanne, you heard that. I mean, what do you make of this moment where President Trump is pressuring people not to vote for the Epstein measure? He's also calling for an investigation into just Democrats. How do you see this playing out on the Hill amongst his Republican allies?
It's going to be fascinating, the vote Tuesday. When I was talking to Republicans yesterday and on Friday, I was told that dozens of Republicans were expected to vote for this, 3 to 4 dozen. But they also expected Donald Trump to get involved and try to peel those Republicans off and to reduce the numbers of people. But this is the first real time that Republicans are splitting with the president during this term. They have been so united, despite a couple of outliers with him. And Donald Trump might not be able to keep the party together like he has been so successful at up until this point.
Connie, it really is the crux of what we're witnessing.
Very cute haircut. I needed to add that. Love it.
What President Trump said, which is, he said, I came up with MAGA. I can decide what MAGA means, what it represents, and what we're fighting for. But is that still true? Or is it the people who are looking towards the future, 2026 and 2028, who get to decide now?
I think for now, it's absolutely true. Look, the concept of MAGA did not exist before Donald Trump.
Wrong.
All of that may have existed, but what Donald Trump did was to coalesce it into a political movement. The fight that we're seeing is about the MAGA of tomorrow. It is the question of where the movement goes probably after Donald Trump. And I think there are very real policy disagreements, whether it's on foreign policy, immigration. We've seen a fissure on H-1B, high-skilled labor, those issues. We've seen some questions around tax policy and the corporatist wing versus the populist wing. The MAGA of tomorrow, that's where this fight is going. But Donald Trump is still the leader of the MAGA movement. He will be until he leaves office. And any suggestion to the contrary is not fitting of reality.
Jamel, speaking of the leader and the future of the party, you focused your column this week on Vice President J.D. Vance. I mean, what are you watching for as MAGA evolves?
I'm watching to see where Vance aligns himself. He clearly wants to be the next generation MAGA leader, and he seems to be vacillating between, you might say, traditional MAGA, which seems insane when I say it out loud, and the groypers, this group of far-right extremists, younger conservatives who are making at this moment a bid for leadership within the movement. I would say additionally that one way to look at this as well is that President Trump has had a very bad month. The Republican Party has gotten much of the blame for the shutdown. His party suffered big losses in these elections. His approval rating, last I saw AP poll, 36%. This, to me, looks like a wounded animal lashing out in a corner, not so much someone who is trying to establish and maintain and protect their strength.
Yeah, the Republicans, Peter, fighting amongst themselves, but we saw the Democrats this morning with big divides as well. And I think the question is, can they unify around this battle over healthcare, or are they going to be splintered heading into the midterms? Because it seemed like they found their argument on affordability, something that President Trump, White House officials say we need to shift and focus on.
Marjorie Taylor Greene herself talks about the issue of these healthcare premiums, right? I think the issue that the White House, from my perspective, might be that the White House right now that I think has been striking is the way that they have sort of changed their view as it relates to the topic of affordability after the losses in Virginia and New Jersey, where cost of living seemed to be very central to all of this. You're seeing some new policy ideas, some new messaging, in particular here, as NBC News reported, 2/3 of voters right now say that President Trump has not sort of met their expectations in how he has handled the economy and cost of living right now. He ended this week by saying, I'm never satisfied on these topics. We're seeing a bit more conciliatory, but the thing that we should note, what happened, I think, on Friday was critical, which is the president exempted some key food products as it relates to tariffs, coffee, bananas, tomatoes. The point of tariffs, as the president said, was it's going to make prices better for Americans. By rolling those back is an acknowledgement that that's simply not the case.
Jamel, on this issue of Democrats being divided as President Trump tries to figure out what his message is going to be moving forward, you saw Congressman Khanna say, I want Democrats to be fighting harder for these pocketbook issues. Did Democrats win anything in this fight, do you think?
I think substantively, it doesn't look like Democrats won much in the shutdown fight, but I think politically, they won a great deal. This exact point, the president having to back off on some of his tariffs, sort of adopting this affordability language. The White House and the president clearly worried about the traction Democrats have made, focusing on cost of living. This, I think, is a political victory. And looking ahead beyond this year, you have to ask yourself, how much can the White House actually recover? How much can it really shift gears? And that's the big open question. If they can't, I think it leaves Democrats a powerful opening going into the midterms.
Well, they do. The question is, I mean, this battle is going to revolve around healthcare, Lonnie, and Senator Barrasso said they're going to meet about it. Is this a potential weakness that there's still not a plan on healthcare? How could it play in this broader discussion of affordability?
I think affordability is going to be the key issue going into the midterm elections. We've seen that in poll after poll. And generally speaking, in American elections, the economy tends to be the top issue. But for healthcare to be a problem for Republicans, it's been a vexing problem, I think, for the last 15 years. The reality is Democrats opened the door. Republicans need to walk through it. They need to present some ideas that actually move this discussion forward. By the way, extending the ACA enhanced subsidies would not have made affordability better in the long run. So Republicans do have this opportunity now to present some ideas and actually get on the front foot on this issue.
And Senator Barrasso wouldn't even commit to holding a vote on the healthcare subsidies.
No, and that's going to be a big problem for Democrats. And also what Democrats did win in this, again, no policy subscriptions, but they forced Republicans to have to talk about healthcare, an issue that is not good for Republicans. A Republican told me at the beginning of the shutdown, we just have to make sure that we don't make this an argument about healthcare. And this is exactly where they're at. And Democrats feel like they're in a good place.
All right, well, we'll watch and see how it all unfolds this week and in the coming weeks. Thanks, guys, for a great conversation.
All right. So, okay, enough of that. We take all of that on board as a study on what the propaganda is, right? We don't watch that and take that on board as the right framing for literally anything. We just want to be knowledgeable about what the propaganda is, how it's operating, because the real things that are affecting you and me, we're not going to really learn about them from the Sunday shows, are we? Let's see what's going on Fox. Hang on. All right. So while we wait for that to come back, so this actually ends up being a really good construct for me to talk just very, very briefly because I'm very hungry. My blood sugar is low. But in the context of Kianga Ellis Projects, hang on, let's see the start. Let's hear the start.
This hour is set with newsmakers from the Trump White House, the highest levels of Congress, and even a look at how the economy is really doing from the world's most famous pawn shop. But first, this week, I was minding my business during an executive order signing when from across the room, President Trump called out to me to make sure that I understand a very important part of the world's most talked about construction project at the world's most exclusive address. So we are about to take you closer than any camera has gotten to the new White House ballroom.
I just noticed I happen to be standing here, Peter, and I thought I might as well get you shot right now. Nice, beautiful shot at the future entrance to something that's really become very popular.
Okay, you're the president there talking to us while he was talking about this new ballroom. To give you a little bit of behind the scenes access, this used to be the laundry room for President John Adams. Now they call it the East Room. President Lincoln's funeral was in this room. President Truman played the piano in this room. President Biden called me a very bad word that we're going to have to bleep in this room.
Oh, stupid son of a-
And as the president was talking about, this room is going to be the entrance to the new ballroom. You need a big front door to get to a 90,000 square foot ballroom that will sit 650 people. The outside part costs $250 million. But how is everybody going to get there? Well, as the president was describing, they're going to enter through this part of the wall that they're going to have to knock down in between the portraits of George Washington.
I can't do it. I can't deal with this. I am not even going to talk about it. I'm looking over the back of my shoulder.
Democrats who've just never been to a Trump property to see that.
Okay, we already heard from Dr. Oz earlier, didn't we? So, all right. I think I'm going to wrap up the watch party because I think we've watched enough. We've seen quite enough. We've seen enough. But to just finish where I was going before we switched over to Fox. The politics that we really need to be watching are happening at the local level. And so this is where Kianga Ellis Projects is honing in on. This is where Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association is going to target our efforts as a community that supports, that's sort of stewarding the wider mission of the Rural Rapid Response Network, right? This regional activity, multi-stakeholder, that is really, at the end of the day, about self-sovereignty, about our own capacity to manage, operate, secure, protect our communities, regardless of what the politicians are doing. Yeah? We have lost trust in institutions. It is broken. It is gone. And in our existing system, I am not of that young generation that is flocking to the fringe, and I empathize. But I am very concerned if we do not mount an offensive for some of the traditions that this country was founded on, even if we have a beef with some of the specifics of the country's founding, which we do, one can still take a broad look at history and come to the conclusion that we are gonna stick with some core principles and we're going to keep improving them. We're going to keep refining them. We're not going to advocate the burning down of everything, the nihilism, the revolution, the kind of militancy that is promoted in different ways across the political spectrum, not for actually liberation, not for the benefit of the people, but to further enslave the people. So I will say this as a way of wrapping up our watch party. The circle of trust that we're establishing with Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, exclusively on Juicebox, a crypto native on-chain organization. This is not your mama's 501c4 organization. I'll just say that. We have tools at our disposal. We have new coordination mechanisms that leverage the internet, that leverage this emerging financialization of ephemerality. I talk about it in the essay. What we're doing here hasn't really ever been done. So a lot of the things I talk about, I understand they're unfamiliar and they're not like ready for a prime time, or they're not fodder for mass consumption. That is the point. And we are going to take this new approach to civics, to civic engagement, to grassroots activism. We're going to lean into the internet and we're going to lean out at the same time. We are going to use the way that we're able to be connected across time and across space, not to stay here, not to anchor here, not to be trapped here in the matrix, just chasing shadows and boxing ghosts. Especially now when we know, and we intellectually know this, but trust me, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the faculty to actually discern what is being shown us on these apps, like from actual fake AI generated, invented deepfake content, of which I think there's a massive amount that's like pushing all of our little buttons and just raining absolute destruction and chaos on our emotions, our spirits, and where we're going to end up going in this country. So that's happening, and that is creating the necessity that we come offline to do our engagement. And we've got to do more than just like knock on doors, right? So this project and what we'll be doing is actually also an answer to the grassroots politics that people are concerned about, the so-called low information, low propensity voters, and what is it going to take for them to show up. We understand that on the extreme left, the progressive left, that our starting to really call the shots for the entire Democratic Party, and we're seeing that. They've got a lot figured out, but there's a lot happening there that's not what meets the eye as well. The appearance of popularity, the appearance of momentum is just that, in my opinion, fraudulent. There's still a space. There is a domain of authentic grassroots emotion and determination. A lot of those people are feeling pretty demoralized, and for very good reason. So what we're doing with Kianga Ellis Projects and the Rural Rapid Response Network is organizing the participation in our local public meetings. Okay? So just like we just spent the last 2.5 hours watching TV, just like many of us spend many more hours on podcasts, on the internet, on this and that and this and that. What I want us to do, this is what I'm calling for folks who want to enter the circle of trust, for the Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects, that we are going to carve out 1, 2, 3 or more hours in just even say a month or a week, whatever time you have, to seek out the local public meetings. Okay? So go to your town website or your city, your municipality, where you live geography. Our focus is New York and New England. Specifically, Kianga Ellis Projects has a base, a node in the network. The anchors of the network are Central New York, the Northern Catskill Mountains, and down East Maine, so the mid-coast area of the state of Maine. This is where we are on the ground. But all of the activity is sort of a regional focus. So if you are a resident anywhere in New York State or New England, this is particularly for you. But the beauty of this technology and the internet and Web3 is, of course, that you can do this with us. I mean, you can do this wherever you are. I mean, this network, the technology, the infrastructure of using blockchain, of having a digitally native mechanism to organize and identify and finance more of a self-sustaining group of activities. One great thing we got out of the pandemic was how many people and groups got online in terms of the public municipal governance operations. We are going to take advantage of that. So we are going to do this remotely. It's wonderful if you can physically go to your local public meetings, committee meetings, council meetings, boards of education, all of that. But for purposes of us organizing and getting started in a very tangible operational way as a community, we'll be focusing on meetings that have a live stream. Of course, in rural areas, sometimes they're not streamed, or they're streamed on Facebook, or they're on Zoom. These groups may not be posting on X or YouTube. Transparency is a massive problem. And that's why we're going from like the big macro, all the sexy, exciting national issues and conversations, and we are going down to the very dull and boring little town meetings, because that is where the action is. The things that we are seeing burst out onto the scene, like the newly elected, apparently, mayor of New York City. Where did that come from? You know, this is a topic for another meeting, but many of you, I'm sure, watching have been part of this movement to pay more attention to our local town meetings. And, you know, this is a domain that for such a long time, many people, most people just don't want to go there. It can be extremely politically divisive, and the drama, and it's a great way to become a target in your local town, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So the fact that many of these meetings are now streamed online, Zoom calls or whatever, you can find them with just a little bit of effort, is a way that we can begin to, you know, build up a coalition, a friend circle, a support group. We're going to do this together. We're going to do this together, each from wherever we are. You can even choose to do this for a municipality or a town where you don't live. If you just want to be part of us, you want to hang out with us, you want to do this together, we need as many bodies on this as we possibly can. And that is what we're going to be organizing first and foremost through Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects for the Rural Rapid Response Network, which is our form of citizen adjacent action. What can we do with what we already have that doesn't have centralized points of failure, that's not dependent on what other people are doing? It's not actually dependent on who's in office, who's not in office. We can just do this. Do you have an internet connection? Do you have an hour? Do you have 2 hours? And here's the kicker, everybody. We can pay each other for our time. That's the big piece. That is why Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects on Juicebox, forming a nonprofit social welfare organization that we have done. That is what Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association is. It's a friend group, it's a friend circle, it's a nonprofit, and it is operating in the mode of a 501c4. So donations are not tax deductible, but it is a charitable organization. And our entire purpose is to flow financial resources into this mission of independent art expression and a new form of civic engagement in the United States of America. And I believe that what you're going to see is a scalable social and economic model for empowering what we little people, what we little Davids what we can actually do without somebody else doing something, without this person doing anything. I mean, this plan removes all of the excuses, it removes all of the barriers, and it's actually self-sustainable. I will break this down further and get more into it, but meanwhile, what you can do, I don't even want to see. I should just turn this off. I don't even want to see it. I don't even want to see what they're doing at the White House. Okay. I'm gonna turn it off as I wrap up. So that's it. I mean, that's I've said I will reveal all. It's not the kind of thing that can just be revealed. It's not a one-liner. What we are doing, what this project, what I and others have been toiling at offline for not even just a year, 2 years, 3 years. Hey, go to KiangaEllis.com and you'll actually see me from 20 years ago. That is just a very, very similar picture with this program I've created called Summer Art Circle. So go to KiangaEllis.com, look at the tab that says the 2000s. You know, you'll see what I'm talking about, and it's absolutely incredible as I've reflected on this over the past, number of months that we've been building towards this moment of actually publicly introducing, revealing Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, the Friend Circle. I haven't even talked about the local currency. but it's mentioned in the essay. So that's all I'm going to say for right now. Okay. It's 11:20 a.m. I've been talking for a couple of hours, which is very easy for me to do. This was fun. I liked doing this. I hope that those of you who joined KEP's Sunday show watch party enjoyed it as well. And that, yeah, maybe we'll keep doing this. I will watch the replay. Maybe we'll make some clips. I have no idea how, I guess, whether you could hear, whether this worked visually, the setup. So we'll take a look at that and maybe make some adjustments and see if we should do this on a regular basis. But the very, very important takeaway from this live stream is that first I got the Banny, then I got the power. And I want everybody to understand what that means. So you can go to our Substack at Kianga Ellis. The link is posted on Blue Sky. The link is posted on my personal Farcaster at FHO Money on Farcaster, if you do Farcaster. On X, both I am sharing, I'm retweeting, reposting, and on at Kianga Ellis on X. It is pinned at the top of the feed there. So I want everyone to start with the essay. Check out the essay, and everything you need to know is in the essay. And we can have another session. I'm going to do that. We will have another live stream where I just walk through the essay. Okay. The essay, first I got the Banny, then I got the power. Maybe, should I do that today, like this evening? I don't know. I'm going to think about it because tomorrow we're going to jump right in on the activities of the friend circle. So this work of attending local public meetings, attending them online. We are forming a friend circle. We're going to do this together. We are going to join the public meetings, not as disruptors. See, this is an important point I didn't mention. It's the first thing is for us to be informed. That's the first thing. The first thing is we're not showing up to cause a scene. This is not a game. This is not for clicks. Like, this is for our lives. As much as we will do around candidates and the politics, elections, policy, what's more important than that? I mean, it's more important. What we just are going to do in parallel, citizen adjacent action. And this is not a partisan proposition. I have my point of view. I have my politics. You do. We're going to all do this together. Like, this 3RN is for everyone. It is for everyone. There is a seat. There is a spot. I want the whole world to have a KEP, an FKEP token, NFT. Like, become part of the circle of trust, whatever your views. Because if you read the essay, you'll get a sense of the values. We are about our values. And those values exist across the political spectrum. People can vehemently disagree on the candidates they want to see in office, on the political party they want to register for, and we can still look one another in the eye and say, you know what? Yes, we want the same thing. We want the same thing. So I am very dedicated to our activity being about reflection, looking in the mirror, getting informed. So getting off the sofa, getting offline, getting outside of our comfort zone, exposing our own selves to other people and their points of view, and arming ourselves with facts. So number one are facts about our immediate environment, our immediate governing reality in terms of our towns and our cities and just where we are, what county we're in, what state. Like all of us who are going to be part of the circle of trust, friends of Kianga Ellis Projects, that's our number one job. That's our number one thing. When's the last time you've been to your town website? Put in your zip code. You know the name of your town, your county. Go there. What's there? There's usually a calendar when the meetings are. There's probably some kind of strategic plan for your town. Have you seen that? Have you read it? We are going to do this together as a group because, I mean, I do this. This has taken over my life. And even I still have trouble staying on top of it. But that's going to change because I've been also spending a lot of time, you know, putting together Kianga Ellis projects, and like I'm very nomadic. You know, you see if you follow me on socials, you'll see I'm in the mountains, I'm at the coast, I'm in New York City, I'm in Albany, I'm in Boston, I'm in Worcester to celebrate John Deaton running for Senate. I digress. So I'm over a lot of places because I'm, you know, I'm the chief instigator of all of this madness. But so starting tomorrow, let's just do this. Let's reconvene tomorrow at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern time, another live, and we will walk through this process. And I'll put something together in writing, like I'll post that'll be my homework before tomorrow in the next 26 hours. How I see the circle of trust, the friends of Kianga Ellis Project. So if you want to really connect, do this with us, be at the forefront of the activation mechanism here, including how we will all earn for our time. Right? So that is a big shift from where I started with this project in January. It was like, oh, this will be, you know, a passion. This will be a side hobby. This will be like my pro bono work. And, you know, the more I learned, starting with the deep dive into the work of the Maine Infrastructure Rebuilding and Resilience Commission, all of this, you know, there are links for all of this if you are curious. It's been like the same experience of restoring the old buildings, of like peeling the layers and realizing, oh, okay, this is rotten. This has to come out. It's like, oh, no, we cannot build from here because the foundation is rotten and breaking. Okay, so that's been the same. That's the perfect metaphor. Like if any of you have a very old house or you've done historic restoration or preservation, or you open the wall and it's like, oh my God, that has been my experience of this whole entire year. So everywhere I thought I was like, okay, let's just do this. I thought last year, this time, I was going to focus on energy policy and the offshore wind situation in New England. I'll just like do that. And then here's my life. There's that. And then here's all my life, my work, my life. And then no, it just kept unraveling. Like where I wanted to sit in a comfortable spot and limit my time and resources around these things I'm talking about, you know, the boundaries that I kept setting, you know, I just kept blowing through all those boundaries. The more that I learned, the more that I listened, the more that I spent time with people, the more IRL stuff, the more I'm traveling and going here and going there. And the more I'm doing things like not watch what they're saying on CNN, but being like the one person that's watching the local meetings, the committee meetings, the stuff that's like all there. If things are happening politically and you're like, how did this happen? like there was like a public meeting about it. There were several. There was like a paper published about it. It's all there, people. So that is where we are going. That is the mode of attack. Is like, okay, we see how this works. We see we see where the takeover. We see where like the infiltration has happened. We see and now we know. And knowing is what? Half the battle. So we are taking citizen adjacent action, and we have an economic model. We are using crypto, all the stuff that people tell you is a scam, and there are scams. Let me be clear. However, if you read the essay, you will hear my articulation of like separating the signal from the noise in that, and how there is still potential and potency in taking the tools for our purposes. And so this is exciting. This is exciting because this model allows us to fund ourselves to do what needs to be done, starting with going to the local public meetings, and we will write notes, essays. Like, you don't have to be a writer. This is not yet citizen journalism. This is like a precursor to citizen journalism. We want to do that too, but like we have to start somewhere. So we start just with going to a local meeting. If you want to do this, if you feel like I have 1 hour a month, I have 2 hours for a month, and if we can pay people for their time, okay, so factor that into your mental model of like whether you want to dive in or check us out, because that's the point, is that asking people, that's why we're in so much trouble, is because there isn't an economic model for us to spend our time on this. Like, we have to survive. We have to survive. So Kianga Ellis Projects, we wanted to address that first. We wanted to address the core reasons of why the people we need to be engaged in civics, like, we just normally can't, like, we cannot. And so that is just very, very important. And that's a way that you can support. I mean, that's what this whole model actually depends on. It depends on people who don't have time, but you got money. You don't like what's going on, but you're not grassrootsy. That's a cool. You can support in a very grassroots way people who maybe do have time if the opportunity costs like can work with the realities of their lives. So Friends of Kianga Ellis Projects Association, the Circle of Trust, Juicebox, the Ethereum blockchain, like stable coins, live free or die trying. How many of you know what I'm pointing to, what that's about? So that's it. I mean, I've revealed basically everything. There's so much more going on, but what I just talked about for the last 15 minutes, that is the crux. Like, that is the heart, that is the meat, that's the tactical action plan for citizen adjacent action. That's what it is that we are going to do. That is what we are linking arms. That's what the friend circle is all about. Taking responsibility for our lives and feeling that relief that comes over you when you realize that you are not alone, that there is a way that we can engage these forces that just seem to have taken over and overwhelmed us. We're going to do it together, and we're going to use the technology, we're going to use the tools, but we're also going to be really leveraging that for more, right? For more than just being online, because that is just not really the be all and end all, especially as what's real and as the matrix just continues to solidify itself around us through these technologies, how we are assembling and how we are contributing. See, that's really where I should end this conversation. We're not going out into the world spoiling for a fight. We are seeking to be educated. We are seeking connection. We are seeking wisdom. And we are looking for what it is we can give. All right? That is where our multiplication is going to come from. That is how we are going to generate within our own nexus, within our own circle, how we will have the abundance. I'm obviously talking all about abundance concepts in the essay. But what we actually have, just when we wake up, we were born with it. We came naked into the world. We were born with this. So, we still have it. By coming together in a particular kind of way, observing some of the new combinations of culture with technology, with mission, it's a kind of alchemy that can happen. And in my essay, first I got the Banny, then I got the Power, I talk about this kind of alchemy and why I believe that the moment is ripe for us to use it and activate it within the context of civics and civic engagement and this new kind of politics that a lot of us, most of us really want, but we just don't see how we're going to get there. We don't see a way back from the brink. There is a way back from the brink. I have a plan. You will see it. You'll see aspects of it. You'll see some of the underlying themes and the thesis, the conceptual framework for the plan in the essay. So check out, first I got the Banny, then I got the Power, and then we'll take it from there. Follow at Kianga Ellis on X is probably the #1 real-time source of what's next, what we're doing, when we're going to have a live stream, how we're going to start with the Circle of Trust and organizing ourselves around joining our local meetings and writing up our reports and bringing transparency to that, putting that on the blockchain with 3RNJ, the Rural Rapid Response Network Journal. So that's what's happening. That's the big reveal. That will be tomorrow. So let's do that. Let's have a meeting tomorrow at 2. And at some point, I want to do a special session on the essay and just kind of talk through what's in there and the tooling, how it's going to require work, people. This is not passive. You're going to have to you have to get Telegram. You're going to have to get an Ethereum wallet. You're going to have to learn some stuff if you don't already know, and we'll all be learning together. And I'm not going to spoon feed this either. So we will have sessions to discuss, and I will answer all kinds of questions, but I've decided I'm not going to do the traditional education. I'm not going to do onboarding. I'm not here to pitch you any technology or any platform. And I am not being paid by anybody to say any of this. Trust me. So it's less, I'm going to do less sort of hand holding. I'm going to expect you all who want to, want to take action, who want to take citizen adjacent action on your own time to do your own research. And there's a bunch of, background stuff you can learn and you will need to learn. And I want everyone to just do that. I want everyone who's going to be part of the Circle of Trust to have already gone through that level of initiative, that level of friction. That's a great filter. That's a perfect filter. I am going to be here always to answer your questions, because I understand that it's new and there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of scammers. And so it's a minefield to think about Web3, blockchain, some of the, some of what it is that we will need to adopt for this to work. So we will always have a forum here to discuss what you're studying, what you're learning, and I'm going to be always giving you my opinion. But as a threshold matter, don't look to me to be your, like guru. I'm not interested in like indoctrinating anybody or convincing anybody or like onboarding anybody. It's like just onboard yourself and then just come with us, okay? So that's it for this morning, the Kianga Ellis Project Sunday Shows watch party. Thank you for hanging out this morning and hearing about, what's happening with Kianga Ellis Projects and all that we are getting up to. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. I will see you all on the internet and maybe IRL in real life. Bye-bye. End stream.